Good afternoon from New York. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS As It Is. Thank you for joining us. This is another edition of CWS As It Is. I am very humbled and very grateful to have the guests that I have each week, but more importantly, to have you tune in to listen to what we have to say. You know, I have to say that with the cadre of young people, young Guyanese people that I have witnessed, I am really hopeful for Guyana. Today we have, among the four guests, we have three very dynamic and very brilliant young people in Sara Bharrat, Anita Jaikaran, and Colin Haynes. We are going to start this evening with Sara Bharrat. I'll take a short break and let's get the show started when I return. I can sit and listen to that song all the time, but enough of the shooting. Sara Bharrat, good evening and welcome to CWS As It Is.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Sara, you know it's always a pleasure to have you on air and to listen to whatever you have to say. It always pleases my heart. You're one of our brilliant gems, and I want to thank you for your courage and your commitment to the cause, to the struggle, for all of us. I want to thank you for that. But before we get started, Sara, I want to ask, who is Sara Bharrat and why should anyone listen to her?
Who is Sara Bharrat? Selwyn, I used to like answering these who are you questions until I realized something a few months ago. That every day I change, so who I was yesterday isn't necessarily the same person today. But I believe that every individual has a core set of principles under which they operate, and regardless of how we change because of time and because of circumstances, those principles remain the same. And I think my core principle is honesty. I believe in being honest even when I don't have a good feeling about it, even when it costs me too much emotionally. So I think that there right there is the reason, honesty. Whether or not I want to hear it or whether or not you want to hear it, you're going to hear it and I'm going to say it.
I don't know if it's me, but I'm not hearing you too loudly, but let's see if anybody in the audience says something about that. But thanks for that. Um, Sarah, there are indicators which show that the economic gap between the haves and the haves not has been widening for some time. What are your thoughts as a youth advocate?
I think at this point in time, Kelvin, the reason for that gap is quite clear, and it has to do with the incestuous manner in which Guyana is managed, in which our economy is managed. So I was telling somebody the other day, I said I was surprised to speak to a Trinidadian who was excited about my CV. I said, wow, I'm not used to being recognized for academic merit at all. Being recognized for academic merit is just so new to me because it just doesn't happen in Guyana. In Guyana, if you're going to get somewhere, if you're going to do something, especially if you're within my, it's all about who you know, and that there is Guyana has produced some oligarchy.
I want to jump into advocacy. Why is advocacy important to you, and when do you believe that journey began for you?
Let me do the first question. Why is advocacy important to me?
Hmm.
Advocacy is important to me primarily because advocacy is the one means and the best means by which I can empower people. So advocacy is all about bringing public awareness. It's about educating. And why do we educate? We educate in order to empower. So we all talk about changing Guyana, and the fact of the matter is, Guyana will never change until its people are educated, until they're aware, until they have the necessary tools to empower them. So that's why advocacy is very, very important.
Do you have any ideas how this education you're talking about can unfold or take place?
Now, the thing about advocacy and bringing public awareness, you've got to be very careful about it because when we think about how they operate, people tend to get away with the idea that there's a single blueprint, that there's one single strategy that you can use.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is there's no single strategy or there's no single setup that you can use that will guarantee success, but rather the strategy that you use is dependent on the environment, obviously, in which you're using that strategy. So for Guyana, if we were starting advocacy for a particular issue, now one of the things I have long been advocating is the need for Guyanese to rid themselves of the culture of silence and fear and to begin to speak up. Now, very few Guyanese have actually spoken up. Not many Guyanese are willing to admit that yes, I am fearful or yes, I have been silent. And the reason for that is that the strategy that we're using to advocate is that strategy just not working. And I think the issue isn't that the strategy isn't working, it's that we fail to fully recognize the problem. And the problem is that we're addressing a cultural problem. So if you're addressing a cultural problems spring up over a very long period of time. And advocacy isn't just an event, it's a process. So it takes you an equally or even more long period of time to address that problem. So if you're addressing a cultural problem, I can begin addressing that problem in my generation. But what I'm actually doing, Selwyn, I'm planting the seed for addressing that problem, and I'm going to meet people from the generations after me, other young Guyanese who come after me, to pick those seeds up and to help them to grow. That's the only way we're going to address any problem, and to ensure that awareness continues to grow about the problem.
At, at, at what point in your life, your development, what point did you realize that not only there is a problem, but that you should address it? What was not happening that you felt you needed to, jump in there and address it?
As for the awareness of the problem, I've been aware of the problem for a large part of my life. It's something that even though it doesn't hit you in a very direct manner or early on, by the time you're in your early teens, you begin to realize, listen, Diana have a problem, we do have a problem. We're sitting there pretending that we don't have this problem, but it's there, it's in the undercurrent. As for when I decided I simply have to do something, it began in 2013. At the time, I think I had hit my saturation level at being stereotyped because of my ethnic heritage. So I'm walking on the road with fellow East Indians. I'm automatically targeted. Well, you're Indian, so you automatically have to be affiliated with the PPP, or because the PPP is a government that's largely you are responsible personally for all the problems that Guyana has had under that administration. And that is when I realized that, listen, it's about time that I made a point of saying that my identity is quite separate from all of this politics, and that what makes me Guyanese is not a political party. It's not a political party, and it's not ethnic heritage.
When you first started that, and you spoke among your fellow young people, what was the reaction like?
People were surprised. People were very surprised at first. I think the first article I wrote was titled "Being East Indian Does Not Make Me PPP," and it was something very very common. People were living it every day, but nobody had ever said it in the open. And when it was said, that is when it really hit Guyanese people that listen, this stereotyping really is true, and it really is a big big problem. And I think people for the first time began to openly acknowledge that this is a problem.
Um, I guess that speaks to independent thinking. How
Yeah.
how do you see yourself as an independent thinker?
Now, I've had quite a lot of issues with independent thinking these days. Now, When I first emerged as an independent thinker, because of who I am as a Guyanese, because I happen to be of East Indian heritage, and because of the cultural setup in Guyana, I first had to make a point of being independent, an independent thinker of what is perceived as this East Indian tribe that rules the country at the moment. So after I made it extremely clear that I was distinct from this tribalism, the next step was to make sure that it was clear that I was also independent of any political party. So while my writings at the time may have pointed to me being anti-government, the truth is that I was neither anti-government, I wasn't pro-government, but that did not mean that I was pro-opposition or anti-opposition either. What it meant was that I was one of the young people who had had enough of what politics had done to Guyana, what politics continues to do to Guyana, and I decided that I was not going to be affiliated with any political body, and that's where you need to start. But the sad thing about Guyana is this, Delvin. From the time you hit that political middle ground, and you're no longer pro any party, but you become pro Guyana, pro people. From the time you're in that objective phase where you're only pro people and pro Guyana, the place is so politicized that everybody becomes distrustful of you. So I am now in a position where uh, the, the ruling party has labeled me anti-government, and where I have been labeled by opposition supporters as being a silent government supporter, simply because I have not come out during this election period and endorsed the opposition. So
Sir,
that is
sir,
that situation in Guyana.
when you're among your peers, young people, and the reason I'm asking this question because there seems to be there is a fascination among us in the diaspora about young people. There's this belief, and history has proven it, that any change, any transformation in any society, it is the young people who have to do this. So we are curious to know, what are your thoughts when you're among the young people and you're hearing them chorus about they chant and talk about change and talk about their needs and their fears and their doubts. What is the chorus that we perhaps are not hearing that you hear? And not because we are not listening, but because you are in tune with the frequency in which the young people speak. What is it you hear?
Well, there are several things to hear. So there's of course the one thing that all young Guyanese at this point have in common is that we've all recognized that the country has hit major developmental blocks because of our political culture. So we've all recognized that there is a need for change and that change is necessary. But during the current period, leading up to May 11th, and I have been having conversations with young people from different sectors of society, and then I'm on campus right now. I'm on the University of Guyana campus, a final year student, so I have access to a wider demographic daily. And this is what they've been saying. There's one group who's very excited about May 11, and they're very excited about what the opposition promises to do. They're excited about the notion of unity. And at this point, they're so disenchanted by what the ruling party has done over the last few decades that, that alone stands as a reason for them to vote opposition. Now, there's another demographic of young people who would have supported the AFC at the last election, and these young people are not very pleased about the coalition. For them, the AFC represented that middle ground because largely the P and APNU, whose largest member is CNC, they have been icons, yeah, they've become icons for Black and Indian power. So these young people felt that the AFT was only middle ground, and they feel that the coalition has taken away that middle ground from them, and they're very disgruntled about it. I had a conversation with one Burmese student who said that I'm so disappointed in the AFC and the choices that the AFC has made, but I may very well not be voting come May 11th. Now, which is just a very, very disturbing thing that a young person can say that I don't think I'm going to vote. And
So,
that
Sarah,
leads
hold
us,
on a second. Could you repeat that last sentence? I didn't hear you clearly.
I was saying that the Barbadian students indicated to me that they were so disappointed at the loss of this AFC middle ground that they were considering not voting. And it's very, very disturbing for a young person to say that, I don't think I'm going to be voting at elections. And that leads us to the third and final group. And this is what I like to call the silent group of young people. These are the young people who are not going to vote simply because they don't stand for the things the ruling party has been doing, or because they're disenchanted, or because they dislike the ruling party. That's simply not reason enough for them to go vote opposition. For them, they are very much interested in plans, they're interested in manifestos, they're interested in policies and continuing existing programs that are here and that can possibly continue. And they want something very concrete to convince them to vote. And that silent group, there's a very high possibility that a large number of them are going to sit at home and not come out to support either ruling party or opposition. And that Selwyn is frightening.
So, Sarah, where do you think this disconnect is? Is it that those who are supposed to be listening are not hearing this?